Well, Gabby, yeah, thank you for joining us today. Super excited to have this conversation. I think we first alluded to your project when I spoke to Raul a couple of months back. So very excited to have you on now and give everyone an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Yield Guild. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I watched that episode with you and Raul talking about us, and yeah, it was really thrilled to be here right now.
Could you, in your own words, then, I guess I kind of gave a high-level summary in that episode, but would love to hear it from you. What exactly is Yield Guild?
Okay, so we call Yield Guild a play-to-earn gaming guild, and there's a couple of concepts to unpack there. First is that we are a guild, we are a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, so we're not a company. And as a collective, as a community, the guild actually as a wallet that owns crypto assets, and we invest in NFTs of different games that use NFTs, where we can earn some sort of rewards in crypto tokens. And we lend out these NFTs to our player community so that they can play the games, earn some form of yield. They take most of the earnings, and then the guild earns a little bit. And yeah, so that's what we do. We invest in NFTs around the metaverse. We lend them to our community. They play the games, and and there's a fee that is earned in some form of yield.
It's a stunning fusion of these new Web3 technologies, right? There's lots of different pieces coming together. So I guess it might be cool if you could give some color kind of on your background and kind of how you got into this whole world anyway. Obviously, you spent quite a long time in the sort of game industry. So would love some context there.
Sure. So I'm a 18-year veteran of the game industry. I was part of the team in the Philippines that made the first ever game to come out of the country then. It was a single player RPG. Fast forward the decade, I was making mobile games, free-to-play mobile games with a company I founded, Altitude Games. And it was actually in this company at Altitude where we stumbled upon Ethereum in 2017. And we heard about the concept of smart contracts. I've heard about Bitcoin, but its main use case in the Philippines was around fintech and remittances, which weren't that interesting to me back then. But when we heard about the concept of programmable money via smart contracts, we thought that was super interesting because we could see how it could possibly be used inside of games. So we started to dive right in and started playing with smart contracts. And when it was during this time that CryptoKitties came out and brought the Ethereum network down to its knees. This was, I would say, November 2017, and popularized the term non-fungible token. And when we saw that you can put unique tokens on the blockchain as opposed to merely fungible currency, that was the real aha moment, seeing that we could put basically game assets on the blockchain. And yeah, I've been really kind of in love with NFTs ever since. So I've been in the NFT space since 2018. We developed our own game called Battle Racers that also used NFTs. I've been using a lot of different NFT and DeFi protocols in the last year. And yeah, been also part of the Axie community. And all of those combined is what led us to Yield Guild.
Awesome. Yeah, no, obviously you played a big role in kind of, the crypto gaming intersection, how those things have evolved. And, we touched upon a few things there, but it seems that, sort of one of the primary business models that we're starting to converge upon is what, is currently called PlaytoEarn. I don't know whether that will change over time as we discover more things, but wonder whether we could, zoom in on that a bit and talk about, what the business model is here, how it's different from, maybe your traditional free-to-play games and where it's all heading.
Sure. So with free-to-play, which is where I was for most of the last decade, you basically have your applications, your games on some platform. So it could be iOS, Android, it could be on Steam. People can download it for free. Most people play for free and basically don't pay anything into the game. And then after some time, you have some percentage of your player population that is converting into paid users. And these are the ones that generate the bulk of the revenue. I, as a developer, get all of that revenue except for the 30% platform tax that Apple or Google may be charging. So that's the dominant business model. And there have been many billion-dollar companies and lots of top developers that have done extremely well here. Also, one way to really cement your growth in the app stores around this business model is to buy a lot of ads. So they paid user acquisition or performance marketing around Facebook and Google. This is how you basically grow your application and reach millions of players around the world. So if you're in play to earn, everything is kind of flipped over on its head. So for example, in the case of an Axie Infinity, you are buying an NFT to be able to play the game. So even if you're coming in as a scholar, which we'll touch on later, someone else is buying it. So by definition, everything everyone who is coming in is a paid user, and people play this game. And instead of a kind of direct sales model, we're seeing a marketplace business model where the developer itself is merely facilitating transactions via marketplace towards its player base, and it's taking a far smaller cut of that, hoping that the economy gets large enough that the cut of that is higher than what sales would normally be in a free-to-play model.
Yeah, so I think obviously one of the really interesting examples of this, perhaps the breakout case, is a game called Axie Infinity, which you guys are obviously a very dominant force in that game economy, and also yourself personally, you played a big role in sort of establishing that community and its growth, which was largely driven out of the Philippines. So perhaps you could talk to us a little bit about Axie, sort of where it came from and where it's at right now, because obviously it's having a very exciting year.
I've been part of the Axie community since late 2018. So the community had always been very strong in Axie. And as the game had grown, so it started as like a CryptoKitties clone with battling. So it's like a pet battle game where you can breed your pet Axies basically, and then use them to battle inside a game. And they've been adding lots of different features as they went along. And what the developers did last year was that they introduced a token called SLP, or it was called Small Love Potion at that time. And what SLP did, it did two things. One is that when you won a game in multiplayer, you earned the SLP token. Second is that you needed to pay that as a cost to breed two Axies to create a new one. So the original intent of the developers was that they wanted to prevent basically overbreeding or overinflation of the Axies, because what would happen with CryptoKitties is that because you could breed as much as you can, there was an oversupply of CryptoKitties and relative to the users, and each one wasn't worth as much. So with the SLP, you needed to basically play the game and earn SLP and then burn it to breed new Axies. But they added another feature. You could sync your SLP balance to your wallet, to the blockchain, and turn it into an ERC20 token. And this is interesting because now you can put your SLP in Uniswap and then exchange your SLP for Ether, and Ether all the way up to fiat if you wanted to cash out. Now you're trading your time and effort winning inside the game for money. And that is basically the genesis of what we now know as play to earn.
Absolutely. And I think we'll probably touch on some of the numbers around that game in a moment, because definitely, I mean, it's scaled pretty dramatically this year. I think we're up at sort of half a million daily active users now. So it's not like these things are exactly that small anymore. So it's starting to get very exciting. But yeah, I think obviously, Axie is just sort of one of the games, obviously the largest game that you guys are operating in right now. Perhaps you could give us some color on sort of how you identify new virtual economies that, might be attractive to you, as well as some of the early other games that you're operating in.
Sure. So at Yield Guild, we've invested in 10 games total. So we have assets in Formula One Delta Time, Sandbox. We've bought into Illuvium, Star Atlas, Ember Sword, Guild of Guardians, a couple of others. So first of all, we're looking for some form of play to earn core loop. So that means that our players are playing in the game, usually using the NFTs that the guild owns to earn some form of reward token. So for example, we haven't invested into NBA Top Shot, although it's an excellent kind of collectible experience because we're not really trading NFTs. We're not buying and selling Axies. We're actually just buying and breeding and using them and not selling them at all. Second is that we like group or guild gameplay. Of course, we are a player guild. So the more kind of group gameplay that is enabled and the more advantages we have by being a guild inside the game, the better. And third, that if we invest into these games, if we provide our player base, if we buy the NFTs, if we create value inside the game, we actually prefer investing in a related governance token in the game as well. And as we've seen with games like Axie Infinity, a lot of value has accrued to its excess governance token. And when we create value inside these game economies, we want to be able to capture that in their related tokens.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.